Hello everyone, my name is Shane Mitchum. I'm a pre-sales engineer here at CVision Technologies. This training session is going to cover how to use PDF Compressor from a command line. First thing I'm going to do is launch the user interface. It should just take a second to open up. The next thing I'm going to do is just simply identify a few documents that I'd like to process. Here I have an input folder with some TIFFs and some PDFs, or TIFFs and JPEGs in it. So, first thing I'm going to do is add that into the documents to be compressed. And I'm going to select OK. I'm just going to default leave it to the output. The default output folder will be the same as the input folder, leaving all the other functions untouched. Next, I'm going to go ahead and change my settings here. Just take a look at what we have. We do have some settings that are not default. If we go to image processing and recognition, you'll see recognition is turned on, as well as image quality has been raised to 8. These are covered in other training videos, what exactly those settings do. But the next thing I'm going to do is simply hit Run Job once I have my settings selected. And what that'll do is it'll actually start processing. The processing here is not important, so once it is done, I'm actually going to delete the process files out of this directory, so we'll have a fresh, clean directory to work with. So I'm going to delete these PDFs here. Okay, the reason why everything was set up through the user interface is because if you'll notice down here on the bottom, there is the ability to open a batch command file. So I'm going to click that here. And what this actually opened up is 2 different command lines that are used to process files using PDF Compressor. What I will do is I'll kind of separate them out a little bit here, and we can talk about the differences. The main difference between these two is that the top one processes PDFs, as you see right here, extensions and PDFs. The second down here are the extensions and TIFFs and JPEGs. So a couple things to note: this is certainly an advanced topic to be covering. It is not something every user will use, but some users looking to automate batch processing would most likely look at the product on this level. So what you'll see here are all of these arguments here. So minus MT, minus M1, minus C. Most of these settings or flags, they correspond to switches in the user interface. So here, if we take a look at MRC quality 8, that flag corresponds directly with the image processing settings. So if I hop into compression here, image quality is 8, and that corresponds with the 8 here as well. Now, you'll notice some other settings as far as downsampling, and for black and white and for color, there's also some OCR flags in here. But this is basically the core of what you need to run the product from the command line. So the first thing I'll do actually is just put this back how it was, and I will save this to my desktop. We'll do test.bat, and we'll just put that right on, like I said, we'll just put it right on the desktop, and we'll just make sure to save that. And now, one way to run it from the command line is simply launching that bat file. And as you'll see, it will actually process the same way it would from the user interface, still prints out performing OCR and the file names. And it should just take a moment, and you will see those documents end up here in the output folder there. It finished, and it automatically closes. That's one way to run it. The second way would be actually bring up the command prompt, take that file, drag and drop it in there, hit start, and it'll actually start processing it again. Takes a few seconds each time, and as you'll see, the documents will end up in this input folder, and what I will do is I'll actually delete those out. And then the next way to actually run this is if I edit that batch file. Let's say I take this whole set, I'm just going to copy it, and I can actually right click and paste it into my command prompt, and that will also work to run the software. So should you want to incorporate this into your application, that's certainly something you can do. You can programmatically update both the flags that are passed to the executable, and also the input and output paths. It's as simple as, if I would like, I can actually strip out all of these flags. What we'll do is, let me just move that one down here. We'll take this one for example. I'm going to strip out all these flags up to this -N and -Out, and if I take this here, let me just delete the ones that are already in this folder. And you know what, I'm just going to add an extension here of a PDF, so that way it'll pick up that PDF as well. If I take this now and I copy and paste that right into the command prompt and select enter, it will also process the files without an issue. So there are flags that are passed by default, and that's what you're getting when you strip out all of the other arguments. So it's as simple as passing an input directory, the file types you'd like to process, and an output directory to our executable engine, and we will actually be able to process the documents. So that makes it very easy to integrate into any type of application that you have where you can call something to run in the console. A couple other things to discuss are, where can you find these flags if you don't want to do it from the GUI. So we do have a help file that I will open up right now. And within this help file, we do have a list of all the flags that we support. If I go here to compression flags, you'll see each of those flags in that batch file there. They're all here, so if I go to, let's say, if I search OCR, you'll see here some OCR related options. You have your OCR mode, so you can define whether or not you want fast, accurate, or super accurate, and so on. A couple things to note about this is you must have PDF Compressor installed on the machine where you're trying to do the processing, and it must be licensed. So if you are building some type of application that you're going to distribute amongst your end users, they must all have a licensed version of PDF Compressor on their local machine if that is where that application is running. If you're running an application on a server, that server must have a licensed version of PDF Compressor installed. So that's about it for running PDF Compressor 6.0 from a command line. Thank you.